Hello, kids!
Yeah, sup? So, we just got back from watching that Dr. Sleep movie, the one based off the Stephen King book of the same name, which is like a successor to The Shining, which is like another book by Stephen King, and also another movie by Stanley Kubrick. And Dr. Sleep, the movie, is like what happens when you take all three of those movies and lock them in the Overlook Hotel and set the hotel on fire.
We're not gonna wait for Sonny.
Who?
Okay. Well, I thought Dr. Sleep was okay. The director, Michael Flanagan, did a very good job throughout the movie of creating homage set pieces to Stanley Kubrick's original film and paying respect to both books. He's juggling three distinct pieces of material created by two cultural icons in one movie. It's a Herculean effort for any writer and director, and an even greater challenge than making a movie like Spider-Man 3. And Michael Flanagan, man, should have his balls dipped in brass for even taking the job.
Have his balls dipped, huh?
It's a compliment, I swear.
Well, I think I should take Michael Flanagan and dump him head first in a cup of his own hot au jus and bite him in half.
You didn't like the movie, did you?
No.
Well, I could see how you could find it disappointing, or even dull, because the movie does kind of forego atmosphere for a fast-paced narrative that takes us through different times and locations. I got a very distinct feeling that I was riding on rails while watching.
Yeah, riding through a tacky haunted house with wax figures of better characters from better stories.
I didn't think it was so bad. And hey, Dr. Sleep, the novel that is, was its own distinct thing, separate from The Shining. The novel, that is. And I think Dr. Sleep, the movie, has enough of its own thing going to distinguish itself.
Yeah, people who don't know much about the franchise could probably walk in and watch the movie cold and still figure out what's going on. All the old stuff in the movie is so iconic, kids who've never seen the movie before have still probably seen a billion memes and parodies, that they'll get it. I guess it's kind of a neat trick of getting little babies to watch this movie and say, oh, that's that old movie. I should go watch that now, and hate it, and think it's boring, and make boomer grandpas mad on social media.
Uh-huh.
But I think the only people who could really enjoy this movie, and not just think it was okay at best, like my little edamame-headed friend here,
my name's Vic,
is if they're such huge Stephen King fans that they just love everything he's ever farted out. If you're the type to see a reference and then clap, and then announce to everybody on the internet that you clap, then hey, you might love Dr. Sleep and The Langoliers.
Tell us how much money you made for us.
And Dreamcatcher.
Get out! Shut the door!
And Maximum Overdrive.
Like that chicken chip!
Unless Stephen King says it's bad. Then you hate it. And you might like this movie if you also hate Kubrick's The Shining, because Stephen King hated it.
I have a real problem with The Shining.
Until he saw how Michael Flanagan loved it, so then Stephen King decided he liked it more. So now all the Stephen King fan zombies will all of a sudden gain an appreciation for it and go online and talk about how it solves all the problems from the original movie and brings the series closer to the book.
It's what? We talking about it?
What? I'm talking about Dr. Sleep.
Oh, but Dr. Sleep does do that. I mean, we can't get into the argument here without going into spoilers.
Alright, so let's just say right now that we hated it and tell everybody not to go see it, and then we could spoil the movie.
But I didn't hate it. And I could see it being a fun movie for nostalgic fans and cucumbers alike. I mean newcomers. The characters are interesting. The performances are good. The pacing is like binge-watching a miniseries, so you don't feel like you're missing anything while you're watching. And Dr. Sleep is enough of its own thing to be judged on its own merit. And I think that's what everybody should do. Both professional critics and early audiences are praising this movie, so you can't just tell people not to see it.
I can tell everybody anything I want. At all times.
But what if they'll like that movie? Statistically, there's a better chance of liking this movie on first watch than disliking it.
Don't start throwing your number witchcraft around at me. Hey, if a bunch of nostalgic meme-loving cat ladies want to go and spend $8 to sit and look at Ewan McGregor's scrawny white butt for 151 minutes, then don't let me stop you. I thought this movie was long and boring. Dr. Sleep is right, because it made me wanna,
Well, the runtime might be too much for casual moviegoers who don't want to commit that kind of time to a story they aren't already invested in. But if you got the time to sit down and watch a movie, I say stop the video here and go give Dr. Sleep a watch. It ain't bad. Otherwise, here come the spoilers. Woo! Woo!
Here's Sonny.
Oh, hey, Sonny. You were waiting behind that freestanding door the whole time.
Oh, yeah. Lord Vapula made me do it.
Huh? Yeah. Ha. And it didn't feel good, did it?
No. Maybe a little. In a good way.
Yeah. And that's what it feels like to watch Dr. Sleep, especially towards the end of the movie. It's all a bunch of, hey, remember this? Remember that? Remember Jack Nicholson? Remember? Do you remember Elliot from E.T.? Well, Elliot's Jack Torrance now. Meme on that, 45-year-old Facebook group moderators.
Lord Vapula, this whole time you were talking about the parts of the movie that reference The Shining. We get it. It's not as good. I agree with you.
Damn well better.
Dr. Sleep is okay, but The Shining is one of my favorite movies. But I'm saying, as a huge fan of the original Kubrick movie, nothing in Dr. Sleep felt like it was a betrayal or a slap in the face. It didn't feel like a cynical cash grab. You can tell that Michael Flanagan style has total respect for the source material, and he's trying his best to honor it. The actors that took up all the old roles had big shoes to fill as well, and I can't complain about any of their performances. In fact, you could even say that they were pretty great. A personal favorite of mine was Carl Lumley's portrayal of Dick Halloran's ghost. It wasn't a big role in the movie, but it was an important one, and yeah, you immediately get that it's not Scatman Crothers, but it's still Dick Halloran. That's not as easy as it looks, and I think he's just great.
Hey, so is Alex Esso.
Oh yeah, she's so great.
Yeah, remember Starry Eyes?
Yeah, I love that movie. And in Dr. Sleep, Alex Esso's portrayal of the young Wendy Torrance by way of Shelley Duvall is so perfect that it's uncanny. Yeah, she's a walking nostalgic brain blast. Wendy Torrance is one of the most controversial parts of The Shining. It seems that some people don't like how weak Kubrick made the character, and I think that's a fair criticism. The Wendy Torrance in Stephen King's universe had a lot more backbone, at least at face value, than the version of her offered up by Stanley Kubrick.
But Shelley Duvall's portrayal of a wife and mother made timid by years of living in an abusive household wasn't bad. You take this 68-pound woman with a history of abuse, and you trap her in a hotel with her child and a homicidal Jack Alcoholicson, and then throw a bunch of spooky ghosts on top of the whole thing, and you tell me how easy it'd be for her to do nothing but be a kick-ass Mary Sue or something like that. That's not what most people would do in that situation. People can say what they want about Wendy being a weak character, but I think Shelley Duvall did great, and she doesn't get enough justice for that role. Her torment looked really real.
I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm just gonna bash your brains.
Yeah, that's because it was. There are well-known tales of Stanley Kubrick intentionally messing with Shelley Duvall's head, getting her angry, freaking her out, to get just the right performance out of her.
Yeah, and Shelley Duvall said herself that in the end, it was worth it, because her terror is part of what makes The Shining such a great movie.
If it hadn't been for that, volley of ideas and sometimes butting of heads together, it wouldn't have come out as good as it did.
Yeah, some of the internet critics have really sensationalized and condemned Kubrick's way of working. But if it really crossed a line, I think Ms. Duvall would have said so. But she was happy with the end result. And no, it did not cause Shelley Duvall to struggle with mental illness later in life. It doesn't work that way. It's stupid to even think that. Also, fuck you, Dr. Phil.
Ha!
What?
Oh, I just think it's kind of funny that this is a review of Dr. Sleep and here you guys are talking about what? The Shining? Imagine that.
Well,
Wendy Torrance is super important to Dr. Sleep.
Oh yeah? Like how?
well, for one thing, Danny's relationship with his mother is a big influence on who he becomes as a man.
And how's that? They're both a couple of crybabies who just want to sit around and watch cartoons all the time? At least his dad had some ambition. I could totally understand how having a dumb family can stifle a man's creative pursuits.
Do you even know the names of any of your children?
No way! If I did, then they'd become legitimate. And I know a whole lot of demonesses and a lot of money.
So when you're sleeping on our couch and telling us that if anybody calls for you, you're not here, you're...
I'm engaging in creative pursuits. Yes.
Well, if you think running away from yourself is a great way to solve problems, then I don't know why you didn't like Danny Torrance, because he totally does that.
Yeah, Ewan McGregor is reprising the role of Danny, so he's reprising the role of a character who was a child the last time we saw him. It looked like Ewan had to take what he knew about this kid Danny and turn him into the kind of man he thought he'd be as an adult.
I felt very much that, I know through experience that we can't help but have a lot of our fathers in us as men.
Both the Dan Torrance in the movie and the Dan in the book are fighting the same old demons from childhood, the demons of his father. And he's inherited Jack Torrance's rage and addictive behavior, all of his bad qualities. But he also inherited his wits. And he plays those cards well when he decides to play them, like when he uses Abra to outsmart Crow Daddy and force him to wreck his van.
Yeah, but most of the time, in spite of carrying so much heavy baggage from the past...
Literally baggage! Dan's carrying around big steamer trunks filled with ghosts in his brain.
Yeah, and he's dealing with a lot of pain and a lot of guilt, so he's quiet and humble and contemplative, at least when he's not all blackout drunk. And in spite of all that, he comes across as a really caring person who, when given the choice to protect a child or run away, he does the right thing. That's the Wendy Torrance in him. He gets that from his mom.
We just want to say we love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom.
Love you, Mom. Shut up. You guys are talking about how much of a great guy Steamy Dan is, how he's so great with kids, but you so conveniently forget that time he robbed a single mom and left her to die naked in a puddle of her own barf, and he left her toddler baby child to die with her.
But, he gave the kids some Cheez-Its first.
A baby can't survive on Cheez-Its. That kid died from neglect, and that's like one of the two worst things that happen in the movie. And for as guilty as Danny Boy is, the incident is only mentioned a couple of times after. The movie doesn't give you any time to really linger on how damaged Dan is as a person. It's almost like it's a montage. Hey, see this guy? Boy, he sure did some messed up stuff, huh? Anyway, he's in Alcoholics Anonymous, and it's 8 years later, and he shaved his beard. So, he's all cool now, debt paid. Well, I didn't forget what you did, Doc. 2 people are dead, and now a baby is a ridiculous CGI ghost, condemned to forever slowly turn its head toward the camera and mumble, "Meow meow," in bad 1990s video game lip sync. That's gonna be in the movie until the end of time. And it's all your fault, Dan.
That does kinda suck, but I think it's better that Dan comes from such an irredeemable place. When he gets sober and makes the decision to help Abra take down the True Knot, he helped save her life, and he made sure that a gang of semi-immortal murderers could never hurt anybody, ever again, even if it meant sacrificing himself to do it. If you don't believe he deserves redemption, then okay, who knows if Dan even felt like he was redeemed in the end, but it felt to me like he ended his life doing the right thing.
Yeah, in the words of Dr. Sleep himself, beliefs don't make you a good person, your actions do, or something like that.
Plus, the dude spent so much of his time helping dying people go easy, because by that point in his life, he's had more than enough experience with dead people.
And he avenged the lives of so many children tortured to death by the True Knot.
How much more wholesomely heroic does a guy have to be before you give him his due?
Yeah, and he definitely ended his life as a better man than his father. That counts for something, doesn't it?
Oh, you mean he's better than the abusive psycho who tries to murder his own family? Wow, what an accomplishment. You know, that's another thing that bothered me. In the Dr. Sleep book, you get to see Danny reconcile with the ghost of his father, too. But I guess they just didn't have room for poor old Dad to win some spiritual brownie points, huh? No redemption arc for Pops. He's just the new bartender now.
At least he probably gets paid.
Yeah, and whiskey.
Since when did you ever give a crap about anybody's redemption arc anyway, great Lord Vapula?
You two better pipe down with the sass, or I'm gonna go all boiler room up in this piece. And I don't give a crap about redemption arc. You can't expect me, a demon, to give a crap about a redemption arc. I don't believe in redemption, I believe in damnation. And I'd like to think that Danny, his mommy, his daddy, Rose the Hat, and all the oldie but moldies that wound up at the Overlook Hotel are stuck there, burning like so much tacky carpeting.
Okay.
Great. Real constructive.
Say, let's agree to disagree and move on from the Torrances for a minute. Lord Vapula brought up Rose the Hat. What did you think of that character, Sonny?
Well, I remember not being too terribly interested in her in the book, but I gotta say, I really liked Rebecca Ferguson in the role. In King's story, Rose the Hat isn't quite as diabolical as, say, Charlie Manx, her steam-happy psychic vampire compatriot from Joe Hill's Nosferatu novel. But the Rose the Hat in the movie really had something to her. Indeed, I wish the movie'd spent more time with the True Knot. One complaint I have is that Michael Flatley didn't even bother to give half of them names.
Yeah, and when they all die in a big dumb shootout, which was different, and dumber than what happens in the book, by the way, you don't even care. There was all this tension in the group over the dwindling supply of steam, but that's barely touched upon. The only other character they give much attention to at all is the newest addition to the group, Snakebite Andy. Sure, we see a little of what Crow Daddy's like when he pushes back on Rose over her obsession with Abra, but for the most part, the True Knot's just bullet food. Oh no, they shot Snakebite Andy. Oh well, she was a bitch. But, oh no, they also shot No Talking Girl and No Talking Girl 2. Oh no, not Baldy No Name. He was my favorite character, aside from Guy Who Stands There. Please, no, tell me he isn't dead. Meh, who cares? Bet you were happy they gave your boy Zarn McClarganarn more than just one scene, huh, Volkswagen?
Well, yeah, Zahn McClarnon is a great choice for Crow Daddy. And you guys are right. It would have been nice to spend a little more time on the True Knot in the movie. But hey, that was pretty cool that they got Carol Stroykin to play Grandpa Flick, huh? I haven't seen that guy since Twin Peaks.
Most of the True Knot should have looked like a bunch of old grandpas and grandmas. That was like the whole inspiration for the characters. They're supposed to be pretending to be elderly RV tourists. It's the perfect cover for when you want to abduct children in a national park for the purposes of devouring their souls. But director Randall Flagg Gagnon didn't think a bunch of creepy old child killers was scary. So what, making them look like a bunch of rando Walmart shoppers is better? Yeah, sure. Old people are never scary, right? You certainly prove that by using Mrs. Massey from room 237 over and over and over again in your movie, Mike Flanagan.
Hey, guys.
Hi, Winifred.
Hi, Winifred.
Hey, yo, what's up, Winifred?
You guys having one of your famous Shining arguments? Because I'm not gonna hang out if you're about to go down another 12-hour rabbit hole of YouTube conspiracy videos.
The moon landing was totally fake. You can't look at Danny's sweater and try to deny it.
Hey, let's change the subject.
We were talking about Dr. Sleep, Freddy.
Oh yeah, I heard that one just came out, but I wasn't too hyped for it because I didn't really care for the book.
What?
Really?
Yeah, I just thought it was kinda okay.
Ha, see? Freddy's got good taste. She knows what's up.
Yeah, I don't want to say it was too weird of Stephen King to add psychic vampires to the Shining universe, for lack of a better word. Sounds weird to say that, kinda comic booky.
It's kind of a good description for this movie. Rose the Hat definitely throws off supervillain vibes.
Huh, I guess it's hard not to make a comic book movie these days. Anyways, I read through a little of the Dark Tower series, so I know all about how Stephen King likes to retroactively tie all the little disjointed stories into a cohesive, franchise thing.
He's world building.
A world, like a perfectly crystallized Coke booger, covered in blood and dipped in money.
Yeah, one of those. So I was fine with the vampire thing, but there's all this stuff about people's psychic energy catching the measles.
That's not in the movie.
Oh yeah? So how'd the creepy vampires die?
Big dumb shootout.
Ha, really?
Yeah, and it looked kinda dumb. When they cycled, they kinda just turned into things you'd find roaming in a From Software dungeon mob. All the CG in this movie looks cheap. Huh? There, I said it.
Oh, it ain't good. You're gonna hear reviews of all these paid movie shill guys saying, "Oh, that looks so real. Oh, I can't tell. Was that blood or Kool-Aid in the elevator? What? It was a computer again? Well, chop me up and call me Wendy."
Nothing looks real in this movie, and that's to its detriment. It doesn't succeed in creating a dreamlike atmosphere, but what it does do is distract you from the story because it looks so fake. They can't even leave original shots from The Shining alone without tinkering with them so much that even they looked fake.
Dudes, didn't you laugh when Rose gets trapped in Abra's mind cabinet and Abra decides to scare her with her skin face and anime wig? What kind of rooster tooth weebo junk was that?
Well, whatever it wasn't scary. The only thing that had any creep factor at all was the beginning of the movie. The first time you sort of see Mrs. Massey creep up to the doorway, everything else just fell flat on the scares.
None of the ghost stuff is even scary, like at all. I only covered my eyes twice.
What about the part where the True Knot kidnaps and tortures Bradley Trevor to death? That was probably the most hardcore thing that happens in the book.
Oh, the child actor who played that kid did a great job of pretending to get killed. I heard his performance was so disturbing that Rachel Ferguson forgot her lines and couldn't speak. And when director Fantasy Flan called out cut, the kid hops up covered in blood and high-fives his dad on the way to the craft services table like a boss.
Yeah, but they didn't really show Rose actually cut the kid. They really pussed out on the movie violence. Just as well, that actor, Jacob Tremblay, really had to sell it because they never really showed you what was going on from the neck down.
Do you really need to see a kid get slashed to death with a razor?
Yes!
And the scene is almost ruined by that stupid steam effect. Couldn't they just put some dry ice in a cup or something? Have a fog machine nearby? Does everything have to be computer generated in this movie? Watching all the actors pretend to take steam is like watching a bunch of mimes eat spaghetti.
Or smell their own farts. What? Farts are funny.
Well, what about Abra? How'd they do with Little Miss Outshine?
Well, for one thing, they don't literally make her Danny's niece. And they make her a little too OP for a little kid. I don't care how much of that shinnin' you got in ya. You ain't gonna force push no grown woman in her gazungas before she whoops that ass.
Gazongas?
Don't mind Great Lord Vapula, Freddy. Kylie Curran, the actress who played Abra, did a great job.
She was kinda low-key a superhero.
Well, the reason why she was such a big deal in the novel was because she had so much steam, right? She's supposed to be this real exceptional character, and thus, she was kind of uninteresting. I can imagine how a character like that would get annoying real quick.
Yeah, well, that birthday magician sure didn't like her very much when he was up there trying to do his shtick. Flop sweat pouring from his brow, and little Abra gives him the classic annoying little kid line. I can do that! And he's all like, sure, kid. You paid $6,000 to graduate from Clown University and not me. Ah, fuck you.
She, was kind of annoying. The character, I mean. And all the showdowns between Abra and Rose the Hat are quite silly. The bit in the hedge maze was pretty bad, but Kylie Curran played the part well. None of the child actors in this movie reached the point of annoyance. Not even the kid who played OG Danny. I don't think you can ask for more than that. Child actors often totally suck.
True. Well, okay. I'm getting the idea that you guys don't think the Dr. Sleep movie would be worth my time.
Yeah, I don't think I like this movie anymore.
Really? Is this another classic Vic change of heart?
Yeah, this movie sucks. And the score is bad too. It opens over the classic Warner Brothers logo with the strains of The Shining's main title by Wendy Carlos and Richard Elkind, and I almost expected to see that swooping opening shot from the original movie. Anytime the music sounds powerful and scary in this movie, it's when they use the original Shining soundtrack. The rest of the movie sounds like stock horror movie sound font fare, complete with spooky haunted heartbeats.
Don't forget the wind chimes.
Whole lot of wind chimes.
Whole lot of wind chimes.
Yeah, but that was the only part that really sounded distinct. It didn't sound scary, but I don't know, it was at least something different.
You sure have been using the word stock a lot when talking about this movie, Vic.
I don't know what else to call it. It feels like you're binge watching a miniseries because of the pacing, but the effects are on that same level as well. It feels very standard, like the kind of made-for-TV stuff that Stephen King likes to make when he's left to his own devices.
Or like that Mick Garris Shining TV movie that so many Stephen King fandos try to stand for these days.
Hello, Danny. I've been waiting for you. We've all been waiting for you.
Mick Garris is responsible for a lot of cool stuff.
Sleepwalkers. Woo!
Critters too!
Woo!
Yeah, but yeah, the TV Shining wasn't great.
I don't care if it was more faithful to the book. Kubrick's Shining was a masterpiece. And I'll fight any of yous what says different.
Yeah, let's pull Mick Garris's beautiful silver mane until he cries. Ha ha.
Yeah! Get him, boys!
You leave that man's luxurious hair alone. And for your information, you've started talking about The Shining again.
It's unavoidable!
Yeah, it seems that Dr. Sleep is faded to the same old sequelitis that plagues so many attempts to follow up on a classic.
Dr. Sleep tries to do its own thing, and when it doesn't, it does its best to pay proper tribute. And I can't say that it doesn't have heart.
Yeah, it's not a vampire sucking steam out of Stanley Kubrick's chubby little cheeks, but it's only at its best when it's acting as a King Kubrick set piece. As a standalone story, it's just okay.
It was a steamy pile of bar girl barf, but it did cure my insomnia. Thanks, Dr. Sleep.
Gee, Vic, I bet you feel real bad about telling everybody to go and see the movie. You just made them all waste their money.
Hey, yeah, I bet you totally ruined everybody's day.
Well, that's their own fault for listening to me. No matter what I say, I'm dumb and wrong.
No complaints from me.
So, anyway, you guys know what really bugs me about The Shining, aside from all these Zoomers calling it boring? It's when contrarian Stephen King fans want to say that, oh, Nicholson is too manic from the start. Jack Torrance didn't start to go mad until he got to the Overlook.
Did they even read the book? He broke Danny's arm and got fired from his teaching job for attacking a student before he even got to the Overlook. Every time you ask how Jack Nicholson was so crazy at the beginning of the movie, so much more crazy than a guy who breaks his own kid's arm in a fit of rage, all people say is, he just looked crazy.
Of course he looks crazy. He's Jack fucking Nicholson.
He looks like a guy who enjoys dental work.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
Totally! He's the perfect casting choice for Jack Torrance. Stephen King doesn't know his own characters from a speeding truck.
Yeah, that's right, I agree. You said it.
Really hit the nail on the head there.
Well, it sounds like they're gonna be doing this for the rest of the night. I'm getting out of here before they start talking about minotaurs and Native American burial grounds.
Oh yeah, the Minotaur was totally behind the fake moon landing.
I'm out.
Space Turtle.
The Space Turtle.
Whew, glad I'm out of there. Hope you kids liked the video anyway. If you did, you know what to do with the liking and the subscribing and the commenting. You can leave us a comment about the video, or about Dr. Sleep, or even about The Shining. And I might end up reading your comments in a future video. Because trust me, the guys are probably going to be coming back to The Shining a lot. And hey, if you like hearing us babble about movies, make sure to ring that notification bell so you'll know when the next video's out. And if you want to help support the channel, you could share our videos to friends, or even check out our Patreon page. But most of all, we just want to thank you for watching. So thanks.
Most of all, I just want to bash your brains in. Winnie, darling, light of my life.
Darling, if you're looking for a spear enema, keep calling me Winnie.
Jeez, sorry. I was just doing a quote thing. Like in the movie.
Yeah, like in The Shining, I know. Ugh.